If I was to ask you who the richest man in history was, many of you would answer with Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, or some other tech tycoon. Of course, it all depends on when you're watching this video, but as of October 2021, the richest man on earth is Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, with an estimated net worth of around $200 billion. But there have been men far richer than any of the aforementioned, such as John D. Rockefeller, who had an estimated net worth of around $340 billion adjusted for inflation. This is money most of us can't even imagine, but there was a man even richer, Mansa Musa, the ninth Musa of the Mali Empire. Mansa Musa, the King of Kings. He ruled the Mali Empire during the 14th century and amassed a great fortune, most commonly estimated to have been worth around $400 billion. The higher estimates place this number in the trillions. So, who was this man, and how did he amass such wealth? Mansa Musa was born in 1280, during the Islamic Golden Age. Our view of history is often Eurocentric, but during this period Europe was plagued with civil wars and instability, while many Islamic and African kingdoms were thriving. One such kingdom was the Kingdom of Mali. It was the largest empire West Africa had ever seen. The rise of the Mali Empire was built on its unimaginable wealth, which came from gold and salt, both of which were incredibly expensive and incredibly abundant in the region. They were so abundant that, at the time, almost half the gold in the old world came from Mali alone. In our modern world, gold is pretty much synonymous with wealth, but the same is not true for salt. Today it is incredibly cheap, but back in the days of the Mali Empire, salt was as expensive as gold. I mean, if you think about it, salt is a necessary part of our human diet. We can also use it as a preservative, which can come in quite handy, especially if you live in an age without refrigeration. It also makes bland food much tastier. Gold, on the other hand, well, we might not have been able to eat it, but it is quite shiny, and I mean, we humans do love shiny things. So now I hope it doesn't surprise you how this kingdom grew rich in the span of only a few generations. Mansa Musa ascended to the throne of Mali Empire in 1312. Mali was an Islamic empire, and so Mansa Musa was a Muslim. One of the 5 pillars of Islam is Hajj. Hajj is an annual pilgrimage to Mecca that every Muslim should take at least once in his life if he is able to. And naturally, one year in 1324, Mansa Musa decided to go to Hajj. The Hajj itself lasts 5 days, though back in the era of pre-modern travel, the journey to Mecca took a while, especially if you lived far away, like, let's say, Mali. Mansa's journey all the way to Mecca and back took a few years. It is a hallmark of Musa's power as a leader that he could afford to be gone for so long without his empire crumbling in his absence. Not only did his empire not crumble, but his armies defeated the neighboring kingdom of Songhai, all while he was gone. Now keep in mind, we are talking about the richest man who ever lived, and so this pilgrimage would not look like any other. On his way from Mali to Mecca, Mansa brought with him 60,000 companions and 12,000 slaves, along with elephants, camels, animals, water, and food enough to feed all those men for the duration of the journey. The vast caravan reportedly stretched as far as the eye can see, and as you can imagine, this display of wealth was something never before seen. Along with so many people, Musa brought with him some extra money to spend on the trip, but keep in mind that being the richest person to ever live, this little extra money consisted of 32,000 kilograms of pure gold which his slaves and camels carried. Alright, so 32,000 kilograms of gold, but what did he plan to do with it? I mean, what could a man do with such wealth? Well, remember how Hajj is one of the pillars of Islam? Well, another pillar of Islam is Zakah, a form of obligatory charity given away to better the lives and ease the suffering of the poor. Musa didn't mean to spend all of this gold, he meant to give it away. Mansa Musa had been extremely generous, and he freely gave out gold to pretty much anyone that crossed his path, beggar or not. He gifted beggars huge blocks of solid gold, and he paid for what he purchased at markets with fistfuls of gold dust. Remember those pillars of Islam I mentioned? Well, another one of them is prayer. Islam has 5 obligatory daily prayers, along with a special Jummah prayer performed every Friday. Jummah prayer can only be performed in a community, and thus Muslims around the world pray it in mosques. And naturally, during his journey, Musa decided he would build himself a mosque to pray every Friday prayer in. You know, as you do. But no, I don't mean that he had a mosque built so that he could go in and pray every Friday. I mean that he would have a different mosque built every Friday for him to go in and pray, no matter where he found himself. Considering the trip took around 2 years, well, I'll let you figure it out, but that's a lot of mosques. This generosity and display of wealth was so memorable and unbelievable to the local population that folktales of this journey, carried over from generation to generation, still survive today, more than 700 years later. So Mansa Musa gave away 32,000 kilograms of gold. If you have some basic understanding of economics, the problem is already clear to you. Gold has no intrinsic value, so we humans cannot eat it or drink it, so the only value it has is the one assigned to it by society. Gold is rare and shiny, and as mentioned before, humans love rare and shiny. But if everyone has gold, then no one has gold. The price of gold in the areas Musa's caravan passed through plummeted into the ground, becoming worthless. He simply gave away too much, causing a 10-year-long recession in the places he visited. Now, some historians debate on whether this journey had an ulterior motive besides simply giving away to the poor. They state Mansa's journey was meant to be a sort of medieval PR stunt, impressing rulers of the lands he visited and terrifying his enemies. To be fair, this journey did single-handedly put Mali on the map, and I mean that literally. Afterwards, Mali began popping up on European maps for the first time in history. Seeing his wealth and generosity, many artisans and scholars came back with Musa to Mali, where they would study, learn, and enrich the kingdom even further. On his way back, Mansa stopped by the city of Timbuktu and annexed it into his empire. As you do. He placed special interest in this city, building mosques, madrasas, and universities and developing it to be one of the biggest learning centers, not of Mali or Africa, but the entire world. At its height, Timbuktu hosted 25,000 students from all across the Muslim world, cementing Musa's place in history.